guys? Welcome to Flex Friday this week. I'm super stoked. Andy and I are excited to be here with you guys. If you haven't been to the channel before, Flex Friday, we give you guys some flex picks. We give you guys some tight end and QB streamers to help you win your league. But we're going to welcome in Andy with his first pick. Andy, nice to see you again, my man. And tell us about your first pick as
Yeah, thanks for having me once again on a beautiful Flex Friday. We're starting off this week with Christian Watson. This is a guy whose name has not been brought up a lot by us. Has not had a really stellar season so far in this rotating Packers wide receiver core that has hit on Reed a few times, hit on Dobbs a few times, even Wick's getting in the mix, but has yet to hit on Christian Watson. And I think this is the week that roulette finally lands on the 0-0 and Christian Watson has a pretty big game. He's had 4 games against the Lions. 2 of those, he was a top 14 wide receiver. One of the others, he got a touchdown in, and one of them was a bust. So fairly good against this team. I think it's going to be a fairly high-scoring game, and the Lions have been stingy against wide receivers scoring touchdowns, but they have allowed the second most yards to wide receivers. I could see, with Watson's involvement being a little bit lower, LaFleur maybe drawing up a play for him, trying to get him some of those deep shots. He had a big game against the Lions last Thanksgiving. He was in the most snaps that he has been in all year last week, and had the most targets of the season so far last week. So trending on the up a little bit. Also, I bet on Christian Watson to have 2 touchdowns last week. And the thing for me this year is I make that bet, it doesn't hit. The next week, I don't bet on it, and it hits. So take that for what you will, but that's how I'm feeling about it.
I mean, dude, not every trend has to make a lot of sense, but I think when it comes down to it, and these Packers wide receivers, it's kind of a call your shot kind of position all year. It's like 2 or 3 of them are going to put up good numbers, and one of them is not going to. And when it comes to Detroit, like you said, I mean, they've been a good defense, but they have given up points to wide receivers at times. It's kind of hit and miss, but I mean, it should be a shootout. It seems to be a good matchup. Like you said with Watson, like he is playing and he is healthy, and that's kind of been the thing holding Christian Watson back this year. So my first Flex Friday pick, he was someone I wrote down yesterday, and I've only grown more confident in him as a pick growing forward, and that's going to be Chase Brown. Number one reason I'm growing confident, Zach Moss now doubtful. I felt good about Brown before the Zach Moss news that he was probably not going to play. Now I feel even better about it. I mean, he's got a good matchup, and I think Chase Brown is the guy that's been leading this committee for the Bengals. Looks like no T. Higgins again, so they're going to be looking for ancillary guys in addition to Jamar Chase to be scoring points. But, I think the Bengals probably win this game against the Raiders. They have been a very good matchup for running backs in the past this season. Just look last week, Kareem Hunt had a good game against them. So I think you can plug Chase Brown in. He's kind of one of those guys, too. He's kind of like the running back version of a Packers wide receiver, where it's like, I don't know if I want to play him every single week, but if you pick and choose your moments, I think this guy's a great guy to have on your team, and I like him this week.
Yeah, we've had a lot of Chase Brown talk on the Flex Fridays, and I know in your Dynasty takes, he's big. I feel like he's moving up there with like Rashid Shaheed in the terms of like lovability. I mean, no one can top Shaheed, but
Top Shaheed, dude.
I also love this play here, though. Raiders are allowing 137 rush yards when they're away. This game is in Cincinnati. Big get-up game for the Bengals. Kind of season on the line in a lot of ways. And Burrow really hasn't been great. He's against the Raiders. He's averaged 175 yards a game against them. Obviously, Max Crosby in there. So, yeah, I think getting it done on the ground is going to be a key factor for him, and getting Chase Brown going both in his rushing and, a few little checkdowns out there. So I'm with it. I'm starting him.
Move into Andy's next pick here, a guy who's kind of exploded over the last couple weeks. A lot of it due to the QB change. Jameis Winston, obviously, our Eminem. Just the dude is a walking sound bite. But Andy's going with Cedric Tillman, a super exciting play this week. Andy, why do you like the matchup for Tillman?
Well, last week he put a double portion of touchdowns on his plate while he was eating that W with Jameis. The Browns went from having the most hated quarterback in the league to one of the most lovable quarterbacks in the league. And I don't expect this passing game to slow down. I mean, Jameis was an absolute fantasy monster back when he was starting with the Bucks. Probably not the same caliber of receiving core here, but obviously, it seems like they can still get it done. Tillman looked great in that game, and the Chargers have a pretty solid defense, but they are 32nd DVOA to wide receiver twos. So I think this is once again a great matchup for him. Don't necessarily project a wide receiver 3 overall finish, but he's going to get the opportunities, and he's a talented guy.
I mean, Cedric Tillman he's an upside play, right? You have Jameis Winston, who's obviously throwing the ball deep, and I'm with you, man. I don't know how you can watch Jameis Winston and not just root for the guy to throw the ball. And even here's the thing, when it comes to it, I think this is the perfect example of like we need to separate the NFL from fantasy football at times, where it's like even if Jameis Winston throws a couple picks, maybe they win the game, maybe they don't. It doesn't mean it limits him scoring fantasy points, Tillman scoring fantasy points, Njoku, etc., all down the line. He's just better for that offense in a fantasy football sense and in a watchability sense. So I love the change here. Moving into my second flex player for the week, I'm double dipping from Andy's pick from last week, and I'm going Courtland Sutton. I threw Sutton into my lineup based on Andy's recommendation. Now, it wasn't his best week last week, but he nailed the Courtland Sutton pick for sure. And I think you go back to the Courtland Sutton well. So if you tailed last week on Andy's pick, he's sitting there on your roster right now. And he's going up against a Ravens defense that hasn't really been the Ravens defense of old. They've been getting into some shootout games. And so for that, the wide receiver 1 on the Denver Broncos, Courtland Sutton, has the chance to be targeted a bunch. Have another big game, I think, in a game where they're probably going to have to keep up with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and the Ravens offense.
Yeah. This Ravens defense allowing the most yards to wide receivers, 30th against wide receiver 1's DVOA. Sutton didn't get in the end zone last week, still had a big game, 100 yards, but the Ravens are allowing the second most touchdowns to wide receivers in the NFL. So, yeah, like you said, very exploitable matchup, and his chemistry with Bo Nix is only getting better and better.
On to the most exciting pick of the week. Andy has got something cooking up, super spicy he's throwing down for us. Our boy Kalif Raymond making a spot on the show. It's a deeper play, Andy, but why do you like the upside Raymond brings this week against the Packers?
Well, this is definitely a deeper play. This guy's available in like 96% of leagues. So, this is if you have guys on bye, you have guys who are hurt, you got to go pick somebody up. I think this is the guy that I would be looking at. Jameson's still suspended for another week. Raymond had a TD last week, but Jared Goff only had to throw for 85 yards in that game, so they really didn't have to get any passing game going against the Titans, and I think that will not be the case against the Packers. Both Jair Alexander and Packers rookie stud safety Evan Williams will probably be out. They haven't been practicing, one with a knee, one with a hamstring, which is definitely going to open up this defense. The Packers have been a good unit against the pass, but missing 2 of their 3 best secondary pieces is really going to hurt. So I think that's where the Lions will be able to, they can get those big plays. Obviously going to get it done on the ground as well. So yeah, this is, for the sickos in a 16-team league and you need somebody off of waivers, I think Kalif Raymond is your guy this week.
I don't know, something about Raymond to me, what I love is like this just screams like I woke up Sunday morning, I hadn't set my lineup, oh, I need a guy, okay, Kalif Raymond's there, I'm plugging him in, and I'm with you. I mean, watching this team minus Jameson Williams, Raymond brings a little speed to the offense, which I kind of think is why he does hold some value, right? Is he gets the jet sweeps or he can break a big play. He gets the occasional screen because he's the speed guy now with no Jameson Williams on the field due to that suspension, that he kind of has this role all to himself in a way as like the gadgety guy or 60% Deebo Samuel, whatever you want to call him. Timu, Timu Debo Samuel, whatever you want to nickname Kalif Raymond up in here. But I like it, dude. I've always liked Kalif Raymond. You know, we love these special teams guys on the Flex Friday show. We always root for him. That was what started the Rashid Shaheed fandom. What was the punt returns and the explosive plays. He works his way into the offense. So my last one for the week, I think this one is just an absolute smash play. And so I saved it for last because I think a lot of our guys who are watching might just be playing this guy already. But that's going to be Josh Downs, wide receiver. It comes down to it, Indy going up against Minnesota. Minnesota has a great defense against quarterbacks, not as good against wide receivers. I think just due to because a lot of teams have been catching up and kind of playing from behind against Minnesota. So some wide receivers have been stacking up some points. And look no further than Josh Downs, man. I mean, he's probably the best wide receiver on the Colts with Joe Flacco under the helm, just because he is a route runner at his heart. Josh Downs gets open against one-on-one coverage. He catches none of the double teams that Michael Pittman's getting. And so it really is just kind of this perfect storm for Josh Downs to probably just almost be in your lineup every week. I mean, I think if you have Josh Downs and you play him as your wide receiver 3 or flex, I think you could mostly ride that out the rest of the season and just work with the up and downs. But it is a good matchup against Minnesota, as Minnesota does let some points up to wide receivers just due to their heavy blitz that, you know, you're going to get some one-on-one for these wide receivers.
Yeah, and every game that Joe Flacco has played with Josh Downs has gotten at least 9 targets. In that 3-game span, he was the wide receiver 5. So their connection is absolutely real. Minnesota allowing, like you said, 3rd most yards, 3rd most touchdowns because they have been winning games. So I know, and I think this is a great bounce back spot for Minnesota. You know, storyline wise, I think the Colts are going to have to be throwing this ball. And it seems like this connection is real. You know, finding Downs in the slot, he can get open against zone, he can beat one-on-one man. Like, he's just a good receiver. So, yeah, this is probably my favorite play that we have of the week. I'm with you.
Moving into our accountability section of the week, I'm going to go real quick. Feel free to pause the video to really dig in and look at these numbers if you want. I will put them up on the screen so you guys watching this video can watch. But going back over week 8, Andy had Courtland Sutton, Jalen McMillan, Ricky Pearsall, Tua, and Hunter Henry. So obviously Sutton had a good week. McMillan, Pearsall, Tua, and Henry were all kind of average. You know, none of them killed you. None of them went off. Over on my side, I had Rachaad White, Romeo Doubs, Tyler Lockett, Aaron Rodgers, Cade Otton. Rachaad White, obviously Cade Otton, tight end 1. Back-to-back weeks, I called tight end 1, so I'm pretty stoked about that. That was fun for me watching Cade Otton go off. Aaron Rodgers didn't kill you. Same with Romeo Doubs. Tyler Lockett, a very weird down game, I thought, in what was a very strange Bills and Seahawks game for some of those wide receivers. On the year, I'm sitting at 26 of 33, 79% hit rate. Andy's 19 of 32, 59% hit rate. But in general, both of us well above 50%, especially if you're watching these as a whole, right? You know, Andy and I really do not only get behind our own picks, but we really do get behind each other's picks as well. We talk about these and we believe in them. So moving into our QB streamers for the week, Andy's going back to someone who's going to stack with one of our weekly plays as well. Going with the rookie against the Ravens, Bo Nix.
Yeah, you know, I almost made Bo Nix my guy last week, and regretting it, I'm not doing it again. He's been top 9 quarterback 3 of the past 4 weeks. Number 2 overall last week. Got it done through the air last week, but also has not been afraid to use his feet. He has the 4th most rushing yards out of any quarterback this year. The Ravens are allowing the 3rd most points to opposing QBs. They have been pretty good at containing them from scrambling. I don't think that's going to stop Bo Nix from trying. And I think, you know, we talked about how much we love Sutton. I think Vele is an interesting, you know, real deep option. But, you know, I think he's going to continue slinging that rock this week against the Ravens.
I mean, Bo Nix has really just improved throughout the season. I think it goes to show what a good coaching staff can do for a rookie player. I'm going with another QB going to that Sunday night game. Sam Darnold. He's kind of one of these guys. He's on the edge of, do I start him? Do I not start him? I think he's still available on waivers in a ton of leagues. It really just depends on your league because He's not that quote unquote top 12 guy. I do think he has regressed a slight bit from how hot he started the season. But Indianapolis for quarterbacks and wide receivers is a great matchup. And I do really think this is a bounce back for the Vikings. I just kind of think it sets up for them to have a big week. And Sam Darnold gets off to really hot starts. Wouldn't be surprised to see him throw 2 touchdowns in the first 20 minutes of this game as the Vikings go out for a lead, to be honest.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happen. I mean, they're coming off a long rest after losing 2 back-to-back games. It feels like this is kind of a plant your foot in the ground at home, turnaround spot for them. Obviously, getting TJ Hawkinson back is huge. And yeah, Colts 26 DVOA versus the pass. So he'll be slinging it to now a full arsenal of weapons, which kind of...
Moving into our tight ends of the week, I was going to let Andy keep going on this. He's going with TJ Hawkinson, one of my favorite tight ends in the league. Winner of most Viking-like Viking as well. I think personally, in my eyes, TJ Hawkinson just looks like an actual Viking. But Hawkinson coming off the knee injury, he sat out all year until now, but he is ready to go for Sunday night.
Yeah. All the reports are saying full go. He's been practicing for a few weeks and has been practicing in full this week, which is something you love to see, somebody coming off a severe injury, that it's not just like, well, he started practicing this week and we're throwing him out there. It's like they've kind of really ramped him up and they want to make sure he's full go. So I'm pretty confident. They say that he's going to get his regular workload. It's not going to be reduced work. He's going to be out there. And this defense, the Colts are allowing the 7th most points to the tight end position. You've been holding him all year if you drafted him, or maybe somebody did and dropped him, and he is out on waivers in about 25% of sleeper leagues. Last year he was on pace to be a top 3 tight end. He was absolutely killing it until he got hurt, and I think hopefully he can pick up kind of right where he left off, and be an absolute target monster. So do it.
I mean, when you watch the Vikings play, like this duo tight ends of Oliver and Munt have been involved-ish, and neither one of them is a special player. Hawkinson's going to completely change that, to be honest. Hawkinson's just a great safety blanket. He adds another weapon to this Vikings offense. I really do believe in him, and he's just a great red zone threat because you can't really double him with Justin Jefferson out there, so he gets one-on-one matchups, and he can really just kind of take advantage of that from the tight end position. Moving on to my tight end streamer of the week. I think this is going to be a bounce back spot for the Saints this week. Derek Carr looks to be coming back. They're playing Carolina, who last time they played them, they absolutely just smoked them. And when the Saints are rolling, Taysom Hill finds a way to get into the end zone. I think this game just has Taysom Hill written all over it. If you're looking for a streamer from the tight end position, he's someone who you probably could pick up at this point because he's just been hurt and he hasn't been playing. So this is kind of a deeper tight end play for me, but I like it this week for Taysom Hill. When the Saints roll, Taysom Hill rolls, and there is no better matchup than the Carolina Panthers in the NFL for honestly any position. I'm just going to flat out say that. Play Carolina. I think you're going to be happy with the outcome.
Yeah, it's 100% true there. And I think Kamara being a little bit banged up, dealing with wrist injury, that only increases Taysom Hill's upside. If they go up by 21 points, they're not going to want to risk Kamara getting more hurt. Taysom's averaging around 5 carries a game, which is so crazy for a tight end. He's gotten a few goal line carries, got a couple rushing touchdowns this season. So, he's a threat through the air, on the ground, and throws a couple passes in there. Who knows? So, yeah, I like this if you're looking for a tight end to stream. Maybe.
I mean, at this point in the year with tight ends, it can be kind of tough because people have kind of settled on their streamers. And I actually think it's almost harder to play the waivers for tight ends at this point because some of the bye weeks have passed up. People start to roster 2 tight ends and stuff kind of does happen like that. But thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in to the Flex Friday show. Andy, thank you as always for joining us. We'll end a little crazy there, but tail these picks, guys, in general. we've been hitting a lot, and we do the research. We spend the time. We don't just throw these together casually. Like, these are curated lists of players that we were really like going through, and we're trying to get the best hit rates we can, and we're trying to beat each other. We're trying to do all this stuff, right? So, Andy, thanks for joining us, my man.
Thanks for having me.
Catch you guys next week on Flex Friday.